Welcome, dear learners. This lecture on time, practice, and structure has been developed based on the references available. Different cultures have varying understanding of time and space. In this lesson, we will examine different perspectives on these concepts and how they relate to the cultures that developed by them. One of the objectives of this lesson is to reveal the intricate complexity of each religion's view of time within a larger framework. Philosophical understanding of time. When it comes to the nature of time, there are two opposing philosophical viewpoints. Time is subjective or objective. Modern philosophy has added a third perspective to this debate, suggesting that time is rooted in human existence and experience. The phenomenology of religion has added a new dimension by introducing the concept of sacred time versus profane time, which transcends the other viewpoints subjective, objective, and existential. It is important to examine how different religious traditions view time and how multiple conceptions of time can emerge within a single religious tradition. This allows for the grouping of religious perspectives based on their views of time, which may not align with the religious traditions themselves. Originally, the prevailing view of time was cosmological. Plato believed time was the order of visible nature derived from an everlasting order, a copy of an eternal, rational order related to both the sensible and intelligible worlds. Aristotle is the most influential philosopher on the Western view of time, discussing the nature and difficulties of time in his fourth book of physics. Time is measured by the now and a succession of nows. Martin Heidegger sees two essential features of Aristotelian thought. Philosophy of nature is the place for thinking about time, and time is primarily understood through the concept of now. St. Augustine focuses on our awarenesses of time and finds the existential dimension in the spiritual tension between distraction and concentration, fear, hope, and repentance. The Edmund Husserlian account of inner time, consciousness is bound to a linear concept of objective time as a sequence of nows. The contrast between objective time, subjective time, and existential in time outlined a religion may address any or all of these viewpoints. Scholars of religion, including Mercy Elliott, argue that time, like space, is not uniform. It structures events and life, embodying sacredness. Eliot distinguishes between profane time and sacred time. Sacred time can represent a recovery of past time or future time, such as in Christian eschatology. In the objective understanding of time, the debate centers around whether time is an absolute truth or if it is merely relative. Isaac Newton believed that time is an absolute dimension where everything exists in a specific position. In contrast, Martin Leibniz saw time as a system of relationships, while Albert Einstein famously developed the concept of relativistic time. As previously mentioned, the debate over whether time is a continuous flow or a series of discrete moments is closely related to the broader question of whether time is objective or subjective. However, a focus on subjective experiential time may reveal that there is actually no clear distinction between continuous and discontinuous time. William James, Husserl, and Bergson emphasized the continuity of experiential time, while Buddhism and Yoga emphasized the importance of the instant in the Indian tradition. Under the umbrella of subjective conceptions of time, it is important to consider several distinct possibilities. One set of possibilities arises from how one interprets subjectivity itself. Subjectivity can be understood psychologically as related to the inner mental life of a person, or transcendentally as related to the universal structure of all minds. In the transcendental sense, time can be seen as either the basic form of our perceptions, according to Immanuel Kant, or the flow of experience that precedes that constitutes all objective sense formulations, according to Husserl. The question of whether time is finite or infinite has been a topic of discussion in both religious and secular contexts. In religious traditions, the question often arises in relation to creation and salvation, while in scientific and philosophical circles, it arises from theories such as Einstein's. According to Einstein's theory, if the world had a beginning and will have an end in time, and if time and space are only meaningful within the world, then time and space must be finite according to worldview of modern physics. Time and religion. The question of whether time is linear or circular has been debated across various religious and scientific and philosophical traditions. Traditional view has been that Indian and Greek philosophy hold the view that time is circular, while Judeo-Christian and scientific views consider it to be linear. However, recent scholarship has challenged this oversimplification. Indian philosophy, for example, contains diverse views about time. Similarly, both Christianity and modern science use the metaphors of arrow and circle in different contexts. The so-called cyclical conception of time in Hellenistic thought was also interpreted differently by different observers. Judaism, meanwhile, emphasizes the historical dimensions of time. Overall, the question of whether time is linear or circular cannot be resolved by relying on simplistic binary categorizations. The intersection of time and eternity is where Jesus proclaims his presence in Christianity. Eternity is considered to exist within time for Christians. In Europe, space and time were given religious significance based on Christian beliefs, with Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Christian saints associated with specific locations, relics, and festivals. The shift to an industrial society also eroded the traditional agricultural practices that formed the basis of the calendrical cycle. In Islam, the previous belief that time is a negative destiny has been defeated. Instead, time is given a moral purpose and placed under God's control. The value of time stems from God's mercy. However, while God remains timeless, the world is still subject to the passage of time. Islamic views on time range from occasionalism, which posits that time merely provides opportunities for events to occur, to Al-Ghazali's Platonism, which argues that time reflects an unchanging order. Some scholars view time as a manifestation of God's power, while others, such as Al-Farabi and Avicenna, believe that time has no beginning and that the temporal world depends on a timeless act of God. Regardless of these philosophical theories, the core of Islamic thought is God's transcendence and timelessness. When examining the Hinduism's views on time, often struck by two opposite extremes. One of these is the belief that time is completely unreal, while the other is the notion of cycles that begin and end endlessly. These cycles are divided into yugas, mahayugas, and kalpas, with one full cycle lasting for 4,320 million human years. This cosmic understanding of time is an integral part of Hindu consciousness and is divided into both the mythical and historical as well as the sacred and profane. To understand the Hindu worldview on time, it is crucial to recognize The idea of Anadi Sainsara, which is widely accepted in both Hinduism and philosophical traditions. The concept of cosmological cycles that involve repeated creation and dissolution, Punar Srishti and Punar Pralaya, is also prevalent. It is important to examine how this idea is incorporated into various systems of Hindu philosophy that operate with differing views on time. The different conceptual models of time have a significant impact on fundamental notions such as being, non-being, and causality, which makes for an intriguing study. The Atharva Veda contains a significant hymn that honors time known as the Kalasuka, which portrays time as an all-powerful deity. References to various times divisions are scattered throughout the Upanishads, which also present the concept of Kalavada, where time is considered to be the sole governing principle of the universe. The Puranas offer a bold and imaginative portrayal of human time experience in the context of cosmological time, using concepts prevalent in Hindu cosmology and soteriology. Both the Saiva and Vaishnava traditions contain extensive discussion on time. In terms of Hindu religious thinking on salvation or moksha, there are various beliefs about the still transcending time. Various soteriological schemes in Hindu philosophy explore conceptual patterns of time, including time as an aspect of divine power, as an independent reality, as inseparable from the dynamicity of nature. The rejection of the idea of time as ontologically real, as seen in Advaita Vedanta, also holds soteriological significance. The idea of eternity is complex, with the eternal not only being without beginning or end, but also unchanging and unchangeable or eternal in the midst of change. Philosophies have carefully scrutinized the idea of the eternal as unsublatable in three times. The concept of time in early Buddhism was not rooted in cosmology or philosophical speculations, but rather in introspective reflection on personal experience. This led Buddhist thinkers to develop an awareness of the constant change that defines the inner life of the self, which they described as a series of momentary states linked by a principle of causality. The ultimate goal of Buddhism was to move beyond time and attain nirvana. The cyclic theory of time has been applied to the domains of religion, history, and personal life. This view is believed to have originated from the observation of recurrent patterns in the environment, which is most evident in the religious domain. The cyclic generation process is reflected in the veneration of ancestors, which is significant in Chinese religion as well as in older and pre-civilizational societies. The early cycle of seasons and its profound impact on agriculture is reflected in various ceremonies such as the plowing of the first furrow by the Chinese emperor, the ceremonial opening of the Nile dig to irrigate the land, which was believed to ensure continued fertility. The concept of cyclical time has been applied to various fields including religion, history, and personal life. Religious practices such as ancestor worship and seasonal ceremonies reflect the observation of recurring cycles in the environment. The deity Vishnu and the series of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in Hinduism and Buddhism respectively represent cycles longer than that of the seasons. The belief in rebirth replaces the fear of annihilation through death with the fear of being struck in an endless series of rebirths. On the other hand, a linear concept of time suggests that it has a beginning and an end, unlike the cyclical view. Time and belief. The characteristics of time itself is a cyclical pattern of good and bad fortune. It is believed that starting any new venture at an auspicious time enhances its chances of success. For instance, consulting an astrologer for determining the ideal time for wedding is a common practice. Conversely, there are times considered inauspicious when starting new project is deemed risky, such as laying the foundation of a building. These periods of time are governed by mythical planets Rahu and Yama, and many Hindus avoid them when starting something important to avoid potential failure or misfortune. In this context, time is revered as sacred and is thought to be the ultimate cause of all events. The force of inauspiciousness is a natural occurrence that cannot be stopped and is often linked to physical forces like gravity and magnetism by modern astrologers. However, people can either reduce or increase its harmful effects by taking appropriate action based on information about its occurrence. Though accurate prediction is difficult, many misfortunes resulting from inauspiciousness can be attributed to individuals who neglect to worship Saturn, disregard horoscope predictions, initiate new project at inappropriate times, or ignore its likely occurrences. Disagreements about predictions are common and can often be a cover-up for underlying conflicts. In India, it is a widely known fact that marriage proposals are frequently broken off because the horoscopes of the potential bride and groom are believed to be incompatible. In some cases, Hindus argue that all misfortunes caused by divine or personified entities are ultimately influenced by natural phenomena such as time or the inauspiciousness inherent in the natural order. Therefore, those who suffer at the hands of supernatural forces like angry deities, malevolent ghosts, or jealous witches are believed to be vulnerable to impersonal forces or states that make them susceptible to harm. The belief is that people's fate is predetermined by the alignment of the stars and they can do little to change their circumstances. Therefore, those who are born during an unfavorable astronomical configuration will likely experience harm from supernatural beings like ghosts or witches, and this confirms the negative predictions made during their birth horoscope reading. In this view, deities and other supernatural entities are only a means by which impersonal forces affect humans. Ultimately, it is the natural order that determines human destiny. In Hinduism, a solar month is determined by the length of time the sun stays in a particular zodiacal house. This differs slightly from the Western astronomical system, with the sun entering a house in the Hindu system approximately 3 weeks after it enters the equivalent house in the Western system. The Hinduism also marks the solstices, the equinoxes, with the sun's transition into Karka means summer, Makara winter, Mesha spring, and Thula autumn. The 6 months between the winter and the summer solstices are known as Uttarana, during which the sun appears to move north, and the other 6 months are known as Dakshayana, when the sun appears to move south. The start of the new year of Tamil Nadu is on 1st Chittirai and in Kerala is on 1st Chingam. Most Hindus rely on calendars, almanacs, or the advice of astrologers to determine festival dates. Different religions of India and Nepal traditionally used several eras to record the year. The Saha era, which began in 78 Common Era, is the basis of the Indian national calendar, but the Christian era is more commonly used for secular purposes. As discussed, we are currently in the Kali Yuga, which is the degenerate era and the shortest of the 4 yugas, means Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. The Kali Yuga has a duration of 4,32,000 years, and it began on 18th February 3102 before Christian era. This means that things will continue to deteriorate for a long time before the cosmic dissolution takes place. The Hindu calendrical system holds a significant ritualistic value, as time and its divisions play a crucial role in determining auspiciousness and inauspiciousness. Bright or light periods are generally considered auspicious, while dark periods are considered inauspicious. All units of time from seconds to years can be worshipped as divine and are often associated with specific deities. For instance, Monday and Friday are considered sacred to Shiva and the goddess in most of India, while Saturday is regarded as inauspicious because it is governed by the malevolent Shani, which means Saturn. The 11th lunar day is universally sacred to Vishnu, while the 8th and 14th lunar days are associated with the goddess and Shiva respectively. Various classical astronomical texts provide explanations for these links, and there are many other links between deities and units of time which vary in significance across different regions of India. Types of time. This discusses three different concepts of time: clock time, lived time, and sacred time. Western culture has relied heavily on clock time, which is measured in regular, uniform units of hours, minutes, and seconds. However, lived time, or the way we experience time in our everyday lives, is often different from clock time and can vary widely. While clock time is considered precise, lived time is often uneven and unpredictable. The passage highlights the importance of recognizing these different types of time in our understanding of human culture. As observed in studies of calendrical rituals in villages, it becomes apparent that natural, agricultural, and ritual calendars are intricately intertwined with the three primary seasons: cold, hot, monsoon, and the cyclical patterns of rice cultivation and harvesting serving as the foundation for various ritual events. If one also considers the crucial lifestyle, means the life cycle rituals surrounding birth, puberty, marriage, and death, as well as the customary offerings to the household deity within the household, the significance of familial ties would seem even more pronounced. Time orientation is a concept used by researchers to describe how a society views the importance of time in their lives. Different cultures perceive time in different ways. For instance, linear time is widely accepted, which implies that time is always progressing forward. Additionally, time is also seen as monochronic, meaning that it is segmented into precise units such as hours, minutes, and seconds, and people's lives are scheduled accordingly. Conversely, time is also viewed as linear, but it is considered polychronic, and people prioritize achieving multiple goals simultaneously. However, other traditional cultures, particularly those in Asia, perceive time as cyclical and based on repeating natural cycles. In a cyclical time, work, leisure, vacation, and chorus are not necessarily segmented into different blocks of time, and time is viewed as abundant and inconstant. This contrasts with the linear time, which can be compared to a side arc, while cyclical time is a like whirlpool that one is submerged in and flows around through. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, cyclical time was a common way of conceptualizing time, representation, and time. These are some ways that time is represented in different societies. In our culture, we use a solar calendar with years, months, and days that are clearly segmented in a linear fashion. This calendar is based on the movement of the sun relative to the earth. Islamic societies, on the other hand, traditionally used a lunar calendar that was based on the phases of the moon. In a lunar calendar, the 12 months of the year are not directly linked to seasonal changes and follow a 33-year cycle. The Chinese and Hindu calendars are a combination of the two, known as lunisolar calendars. These calendars are based on the phases of the moon but are adjusted to the Earth's rotation around the sun and the natural seasons. Evans Pritchard observed that the Noah people used seasonal activities to mark time, such as the formation of cattle camps, wedding, and harvesting. He also noted that daily activities were timed using a cattle clock. Meanwhile, Clifford Geertz argued that for the Balinese, time was a motionless present without direction. However, other ethnographers have contested this view, pointing out that Balinese people often use their calendars to keep track of time. Arnold van Gennep's analysis of ritual centers on their location at the intersection of the spatial and temporal dimensions of social life. The essential elements of what he terms rites of passage invoke both spatial and temporal imaginary. Rituals that alter the social status of an individual or group involve crossing boundaries, such as moving from inside a home to outside it or from the village to the forest, and occur at specific times such as dawn or dusk or between seasons. Sociologists are interested in time not only as a subject of research but also as a theoretical concept. Pierre Bourdieu, critic of structuralist analysis, highlights the importance of timing in gift exchange. The giving, receiving, and returning of gifts is not just a result of a law of reciprocity, but rather a political judgment of the agents involved. Timing plays a crucial role in gift exchange, as without the lapse of time between giving and receiving, the exchange could not function. Bourdieu's argument is part of a broader critique of the possibility of a science of social practice. Structural analysis focuses on synchronic virtuals reality and spatial relations, while practice unfolds in time with directionality and irreversibility with synchronic structures cannot account for. A common belief among various religious traditions worldwide is the significance of holy time. The Jews' faith, for instance, had specific seasons and days of importance such as Passover and the Day of Atonement, which served to commemorate and honor God's role in Israel's history. In the early days of Christianity, the first day of each week was celebrated as a reminder of Jesus' resurrection. Moreover, certain days of worship are considered sacred. Christians have reserved Sundays for congregational worship, dedicating it to the worship of God, whereas Muslims consider Friday is the sacred. Dear learners, so far we have discussed the different cultures have varying understanding of time and space, and also we could examine the different perspectives on these concepts and how they relate to the cultures that developed by them. I hope you all must have enjoyed the session and it may have enriched the knowledge on the time, practice and structure. Dear learners, we will meet with another schedule. Thank you. All the best.